Ladies and gentlemen, let's get real for a second. When a good woman gets hurt, it's not just a breakup. It's not just a fight. It's a shift. A good woman doesn't come with chaos. She comes with peace, support, and grace. But when that gets taken for granted or broken, what follows is not revenge. It's revelation of who she really is and who you really are. Today, I want to talk about what actually happens when a man hurts a good woman and why it's a moment that changes everything. Let me take you into the moment a good woman shuts down. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not dramatic. There's no slamming doors or raised voices. That's not her style. A good woman doesn't operate in extreme. She operates in understanding, in patience, in second chances. She gives the benefit of the doubt until there's no doubt left. But when the pain starts stacking, quiet disrespect here, broken promise there, little digs disguised as jokes, emotional distance disguised as business, something in her starts to shift. And here's what most men miss. When she goes quiet, she's not being cold. She's not playing games. She's processing. She's protecting. That silence you hear, that's her realizing that the space she once felt safe in is no longer safe. And when a good woman no longer feels emotionally safe with you, that's when you start losing her. Not when she leaves, but long before that. See, hurting a good woman isn't just about what you said. It's about what you didn't say. It's the apology that never came, the accountability that was always dodged, the way her feelings were minimized or dismissed because they made you uncomfortable, the way she had to carry the emotional weight of two people in a relationship that was supposed to be built for two. You might have thought she was overreacting, too sensitive, maybe even accused her of being dramatic, but really, she was just asking for connection. She was asking to be seen, to be heard, to be valued. And when those things didn't come, when her love felt like it was being met with indifference, she didn't explode. She didn't attack. She withdrew. That withdrawal, that's not revenge. That's her body and heart saying, I know. That's self-preservation. That's her realizing that loving you is starting to cost her too much. Her peace, her confidence, her self-respect. And for a woman like that, peace is priceless. And I get it. Maybe you didn't mean to hurt her. Maybe you thought she'd always be there because she always has been. Maybe you thought her forgiveness was endless because she kept choosing you. But there's a point where even the strongest loyalty bends, where love that isn't nurtured starts to fade. And when that happens, you don't just get a quiet woman, you get a distant one. You'll feel it in the way she stops reminding you of the little things, stops texting first, stops checking in, stops defending you to her friends, stops bringing up the conversations that matter because she already knows how she doesn't want to argue. She doesn't want to explain why she's hurting for the 10th time. What she wants is something you've already shown her. You're not ready to give. And that realization doesn't make her bitter. It makes her done. This is the part that stings later, because you'll think she switched up on you. You'll wonder why she stopped fighting, why she seemed to give up. But she didn't give up. She gave it everything until she had nothing left to give. And when she finally stopped, it wasn't to hurt you. It was to stop hurting herself. You never lose a good woman in a single moment. You lose her in pieces in the slow fading of her light, when she no longer feels safe to shine around you, and when she goes quiet. That's not peace. That's pain. Learning how to breathe without breaking. That's love. Learning how to let go without burning down the whole house on its way out. So if you ever find yourself standing in the silence she left behind, don't confuse it for absence. That silence says everything. Here's something men often don't realize until it's too late. When a good woman starts rebuilding, she does it quietly, steadily, and without looking back. At first, it might not even register. She still says good morning, still asks if you've eaten, still holds space for you, even when she's running on empty. But if you look closely, something shifted. She's not as available. She's not as eager. She's not waiting for you to notice what's wrong anymore. She's already accepted that you will. You see, a good woman doesn't just walk away because she's angry. She walks away because she's exhausted. There's a big difference. She doesn't leave when things get hard. She's the one who stays and fights, who shows up, who tries again and again. She's the woman who will explain how she feels, even when it's uncomfortable, because she believes in working through the mess. But she also has limits, and once she hits them, once she realizes that her love isn't being matched with effort, that her presence is being taken for granted, she shifts from giving to guarding, from trying to trusting her gut. That's when the rebuilding begins. She doesn't announce it. She doesn't post it. She just starts choosing herself in the smallest of ways. Maybe she stops rearranging her schedule for you, stops waiting up, stops postponing her own goals because she was trying to support yours. Maybe she starts journaling again, praying differently, getting back to the version of herself that existed before the disappointment set in. And here's the truth that stings. When a good woman begins rebuilding, she's not waiting for an apology to start. She's not waiting for you to notice the damage. She's learned that waiting for someone to fix what they broke is just another form of being stuck. She starts showing up differently for herself this time. She signs up for things that bring her joy. She connects with people who actually see her. She speaks softer to herself, treats herself with more grace, more patience, that love she used to pour into you. She's learning how to give that back to herself, and not out of spite, but out of necessity. You might think she's being distant, cold even, but really she's finally warm with herself. She's realizing that love isn't supposed to feel like confusion, that commitment isn't supposed to feel like convincing. And for maybe the first time in a long time, she's breathing without holding back. And here's what's hard to watch. She gets stronger, not because she stopped loving you, but because she started remembering how to love herself. The version of her you see now isn't bittered. She's boundaried. She's not angry. She's awake. She's no longer trying to win you over. She's no longer trying to prove her worth. She knows now that being a good woman doesn't mean sacrificing herself for someone who refuses to meet her halfway. And when she starts rebuilding, she's not looking for closure from you. Her growth is the closure. This is when the roles start to flip because now you're watching her move in peace while you're standing still in regret. You're starting to remember all the things she used to do. The way she spoke life into you, held space for your silence, believed in your potential more than you did. But by then she's already healing. She's already somewhere else, mentally, emotionally, and maybe even physically. You don't lose her when she leaves. You lost her when she realized she had to build something without you in it. And you never saw it because you were too busy assuming she'd always be there. By the time you recognize the strength it took for her to stay as long as she did, she's already become the woman who no longer needs to, and she didn't rebuild to prove a point. She rebuilt because she finally saw the point. There comes a moment, often too quiet to notice right away, when the man who hurt a good woman starts to feel the shift. At first, it might look like distance, like her not texting back as quickly, not being as engaged in conversations, not smiling the same way when you walk into the room. But over time, that shift turns into space, real emotional space. And it doesn't matter how long you've been with her. That space feels unfamiliar and a little cold because you're no longer being met with the warmth she used to give so freely. And that's when the mirror shows up. It doesn't arrive with flashing lights or loud alarms. It just sits there in her silence, in her absence, in her no longer trying to make you feel okay at the cost of her own peace. And suddenly you're not dealing with the version of her that gave you grace. You're facing the version of you that you refused to look at while you still had her. When a good woman finally pulls back, what you see isn't a reaction, it's a reflection. She's not acting differently to punish you. She's just no longer shielding you from the reality of how you've made her feel. And what you're left with isn't her anger, it's your accountability. You see, hurting a good woman doesn't just break her trust, it reveals your patterns. It exposes how you handle love, how you handle pressure, how you handle someone who actually sees you and wants to grow with you. And when you dismiss that, when you mishandle someone who's in your corner, the mirror comes out, whether you're ready or not. It's not her job to fix what you refuse to face. But while she was there, she tried. She asked the hard questions. She brought things to the table that made you uncomfortable, not to attack you, but to build something stronger. She leaned in, even when you leaned out, but eventually a good woman learns that leaning in without support just leads to a fall. And when she steps back, she takes with her the protection she gave you from your own reflection. Now you're left standing there, not in front of her, but in front of yourself. No more justifications, no more distractions, just you and the choices you made. The things you said without thinking, the things you didn't say because you didn't think they mattered. The moments you laughed off her pain instead of leaning in with empathy. The times you made her feel like her needs were too much, when really they were the bare minimum, and you start to feel it. The regret doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in during the quiet moments. The songs that remind you of her. The places that feel emptier now. The parts of your life she used to fill without you even noticing. You realize you weren't just in love with her. You were being carried by her. Her softness, her consistency, her emotional labor. She didn't just love you. She nurtured you, supported you, believed in you when you didn't have the words to believe in yourself. And now, in her absence, you finally see what her presence was really worth. That's the mirror. And it's clear, and it's honest, and it doesn't lie. You might want to blame her. Tell yourself she gave up too soon, that she changed, but deep down, you know better. She didn't change. She just stopped overextending. Stopped fighting for someone who wasn't fighting for her. She didn't walk away from love. She walked away from being the only one loving. That's the cost of hurting a good woman. The real consequence isn't her anger. It's your awakening. It's the moment you finally see what you did and who you were and who you popped. I could have been if you had handled her heart with care. And by the time you're ready to change, she's no longer someone you're changing with. She's someone you're changing because there's a certain expectation some men have that when a good woman is hurt, she'll fall apart, that she'll lash out, break down, maybe even try to get back at you. But that's not how a good woman operates. When she's deeply hurt, she doesn't seek revenge. She seeks release. She doesn't waste her energy on bitterness. She uses it to rebuild, to reclaim herself, and to rise. That's the shift a lot of people never see coming. You might expect her to yell, to make a scene, to post about it, to show the world what you did. But instead, she goes inward. She turns that pain into reflection, into redirection. She starts asking different questions. Not why did he hurt me? But of why did I stay that long? Not how do I get him to see my worth, but how do I get back to seeing it myself? And that change in focus, that's when everything starts moving. Her energy, which was once so focused on making the relationship work, on pouring into you, on keeping things together, starts flowing in a new direction into her purpose, her peace, her growth, her joy. It's not a quick flip. It's a steady climb. And every step she takes away from the pain brings her closer to clarity. Because here's the thing. A good woman knows that staying stuck in resentment only keeps her emotionally tied to what broke her. So instead of trying to make you pay, she lets go. She detaches. She frees herself. And in doing that, she starts to rebuild something far more powerful than a relationship. She rebuilds herself. You may not see it happening, but trust me, it's real. She starts eating better, sleeping better, getting around people who feed her spirit instead of draining it. She starts reading again, creating again, laughing for real this time. And what you once had to convince her to do, take care of herself, prioritize herself, now becomes her default. The woman you once knew, the one who was always checking in, always compromising, always trying to make you feel okay. She's still there, but she's no longer sacrificing her peace to hold things together that weren't built to last. That strength she's walking in now, that didn't come from the love you gave her. It came from the love she finally gave back to herself. And people will notice there's a glow to her now. Not the glow that comes from someone new, but the one that comes from someone renewed. Her voice is steadier. Her boundaries are stronger. Her presence is quieter, but more powerful. She doesn't need to prove anything. Not to you, not to anyone. She's not walking around angry. She's just walking differently. That's what men often don't understand. The consequence isn't always a reaction. Sometimes it's elevation, and you don't get to witness the version of her that pain helped create because you're a part of what she had to let go in order to become it. This isn't about ego. It's not about revenge. It's about alignment. A good woman who's been hurt doesn't rise out of spite. She rises out of necessity because staying down too long would cost her too much. She knows that. And once she realizes she's allowed to outgrow the version of herself that's settled, she never, and that's when it really hits. Not because she blocked your number, not because she posted some quote about healing, but because you look around one day and realize she's no longer in the same place you left her. And worse, she's no longer the same woman you thought you'd always have access to. She's elevated, and you're still where she had to leave you. That's the impact. That's the outcome. And the only thing louder than her silence is the sound of her no longer needing your validation to thrive. Regret has a strange way of showing up. It doesn't always come in the middle of the fight. It rarely shows up when she's still asking you to listen, still hoping you'll meet her halfway. No. Regret comes later, after the dust has settled, after the calls have stopped, after the quiet stretches long enough that you realize she's not just giving you space. She's giving you her last chance. And by the time you feel it, by the time you start to look back and recognize everything she was, it's already different. She's already different. See, a good woman doesn't usually walk away out of anger. She walks away after too many nights, nighting next to someone who made her feel alone. She walks away after explaining herself over and over and realizing you were never really listening. She walks away when the peace she was trying to build with you becomes the very thing she has to chase without you. And when she's gone, not physically, but emotionally, that's when it hits. That's when the regret starts talking. It doesn't yell, it whispers. It shows up in the little things. You catch yourself looking at your phone longer, hoping maybe she'll text. You think about something funny and want to share it, but you remember she's not there to respond anymore. You hear a song, smell something familiar, pass by a spot you used to go together, and it's like time slows down just long enough to remind you of what you lost. And not just who you lost, but what she represented. Because it's not just about missing her laugh, her presence, the way she cared about the details you didn't think anyone noticed. It's about missing the version of yourself that she saw, the version she believed in, the one she kept fighting for even when you weren't showing up as him. That's the hard part. That's what regret does. It reminds you not only of what you did, but of who you could have been if you had handled her better. You start to realize that what you called nagging was actually her trying to connect. What you brushed off as too sensitive was her just needing to feel emotionally safe. What you thought was her overreacting was really her reaching her limit after carrying more than she should have in silence. And when you finally see it, it's like a switch flips. But by then, she's not the same woman. The door you once walked through without effort now feels closed, not locked, not slammed, but no longer open the way it used to be. That's what people forget. Time doesn't stop just because you're not ready to grow. While you were running from the discomfort of accountability, she was healing while you were convincing yourself she'd never leave. She was learning how to let go. And when you finally look for her in the place she used to be emotionally, mentally, physically, she's already moved on. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she finally started loving herself more. And that's where the regret cuts deepest, knowing she was willing to weather the storm with you. But you kept bringing the thunder, knowing she was never asking for perfection, just effort, just consistency, just for you to choose her with the same energy. She chose you. But by the time you're ready to give her what she needed, she no longer needs it from you. That's what happens when a man hurts a good woman. The impact doesn't always show up in fireworks. Sometimes it echoes in the silence of everything you didn't say, everything you didn't do. And when it finally hits, it hits hard. Because the hardest part about losing a good woman isn't just losing her, it's realizing she became everything you ever wanted. Right after you taught her, she didn't need to wait for you to become what she deserved. Let's be honest with ourselves. Not everything we lose is taken from us. Sometimes we lose things because we didn't value them when we had them. A good woman doesn't walk into your life demanding perfection. She walks in with patience, loyalty, and heart. She builds, she uplifts, she stays even when she shouldn't have to. And when that kind of woman is hurt, what follows isn't just her absence. It's the reflection of everything you could have done differently. Because the truth is, when you hurt a good woman, you don't just lose her. You lose the version of yourself that only existed because she believed in you.